Hello, I'm Sandra Gilman, Chairman of the American Theatre Wing, with our board president, Doug Leeds. Welcome to today's program.
We'll be back later to tell you more about the work of the American Theatre Wing. But right now, please join us for another edition of Working in the Theatre. Whether it's a classic from Tennessee Williams or George Bernard Shaw, or new plays from the best contemporary writers such as Douglas Carter Beane and Sarah Ruhl, it takes a special talent to bring it to life. I'm Ted Chapin for the American Theatre Wing, and I'm here with 4 women who definitely have the talent. Time and time again, they've used it to great acclaim, each earning the right to be known as that one-of-a-kind special actress, the leading lady. Please welcome Blair Brown from The Clean House, Blythe Danner from Suddenly Last Summer, Swoosie Kurtz from Heartbreak House, and Julie White from The Little Dog Laughed. Now, I wanted to clean something up before we start here. In this very studio a year or so ago, I had a conversation with Marion Seldes, and I asked her the question, do you like to be referred to as an actor or an actress? And she had, as Marion does, a very particular answer to that question. So I thought I'd pose it to you 4 as well. Anybody want to
hear hers first?
Yeah. I say whatever Marion says, ditto.
Marion said in Marion way, an actress.
Oh.
I am an actress, and I just wonder in this day and age where you know, is that in any way an insult?
I like actor. I don't know why.
Yeah,
but with my peculiar name, sometimes people think I'm a man. So, but I don't care.
When I was younger, I wanted to be an actor. It was a real sort of point, and now I sort of like being an actress. I don't know why. Just sort of do now. It seems like you should be given presents and bonbons, and you should be sort of pampered. I think that's. I'd like to go back to that sort of actress.
Have a stage door, Johnny.
That's right, exactly. Whereas an actor
I actually
sounds
like to be called
someone
Honey
who
and
works
Baby,
on.
so I'm really setting the women's movement back about 20 years.
Well, it certainly is one of the few roles in the theater that has 2 names for men and for women. But since you are 4 women of accomplishment. What about women in the theater? You were talking. I heard you talking about directors. Are there enough women directors, and if not, why?
There are not enough women directors. They're not. I mean, I know a lot of younger women directors who are trying to find their way, but when I think of women directors of our generation, it was very hard for them to get work. I know Emily Mann, who runs the McCarter Theater, who went to Radcliffe, and then I knew her at the Guthrie when we were girls. You know, she basically was there to get Michael Langham coffee. There was no sense that she would have something to offer. And so I think that generation, someone older, even like Zelda Fitzchandler, started her own theater. But it's weird that in our generation there aren't a host
I'm
of
trying to think.
good directors.
Female director I've worked for.
I worked with Pamela Berlin, who had like a moment. She directed Steel Magnolias in the late 80s or 90s, and she was supposed to direct a revival of Mr. Roberts on Broadway. And it's like, I thought Pam was going to be the one that broke in and was like one of the 5 of the gang that directs on Broadway, and it just kind of, I'm not sure why it didn't happen, but she directs a lot of opera now, and I think also women that just keep banging your head against a brick wall. I mean, Pam just finally was like, well, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go and buy me a nice piece of property in Colorado and direct it Santa Fe, and I
do think still women directors are held to a higher standard than men. I think there are a lot of male directors that we know who are good but not great that continue to work, whereas I can think of some directors who may not have succeeded, and they seem to then not have opportunities.
It seems to have, the female playwrights seem to have made a little more inroads than the female directors. But it's still, to get a woman's play done, to get an American woman's play done,
and
what are the odds?
So hard, what are the odds, exactly.
When The Clean House was in rehearsal, was that not the moment where Sarah Ruhl won a Genius Award?
It's true. The odd thing is that I was one of the judges on the Susan Smith Blackburn Prize, which is a prize given to the best play written in English by a woman anywhere in the world. Weirdly, the year that we chose The Clean House by Sarah Ruhl. The other judges at that time, Jim Houghton, who ran Signature Theatre, and Charles Isherwood, who was then the reviewer for Variety. And I remember Charles saying, as the judges got to look at 12 plays, and he said, well, these plays are fantastic. Why don't we ever see them? And you went, and then cut to some years later, and you realize now he's part of the problem about why we never see those kinds of plays. But I've been a judge on that twice, and there are remarkable plays that never get here, you know?
Don't get
And
done.
I don't know why, but they don't seem to make their way through the regionals back, or certainly to get a one-shot up here.
But let's talk about female roles, because obviously, you know, the roles that you are currently represented by in New York do range from, you know, a short, traditional perhaps, heroine.
Well, hardly traditional, but yes.
Well, no, but also, I mean,
unconventional.
but done in a wonderfully modern way. I mean,
Yeah.
because I think the director was quoted as saying he didn't want to do Shaw as a history lesson; he wanted to do it as an entertainment. How did that influence your diving into that character?
Oh, yeah. Well, Robin Lefevre, who directed Heartbreak House, was very, very irreverent of, he said, forget that it's a period play, forget it's Shaw. He didn't say forget it's Shaw. He kept saying it's Shaw when we would ask him a question. Well, what do I mean by this? It's Shaw. Stand back on your hips and say it. He's Scottish. But yeah, it was very much a visceral approach of these are real people with real needs. You know, this could have been written yesterday afternoon as far as the politics and the wisdom that it has about men and women. It's so modern, so contemporary. Shaw was, you know, a genius, and he approached it that way so that we didn't have that sort of presentational kind of style of, oh, these people are talking endlessly. You know, it just isn't a discussion, it's people needing things from each other.
That wouldn't hurt me. Perhaps it comes off at night.
You don't mean to say, Hussaini, that your beautiful red hair is false.
Don't tell Hector. He believes in it.
Oh, even the hair that ensnared him false. Everything false.
Oh, pull it and try. Other women can snare men in their hair. I can swing a baby on mine. You can't do that, Goldilocks.
No.
I had done the play as a young person, and it was inscrutable. I mean, we had a really hard time making sense of it. When I saw this production, I said, this is, it just presented so clearly and so beautifully. It's really, this one, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how did you find Blythe doing a Tennessee Williams?
Well, I feel I must have lived under his roof in another life or something, because I've always loved doing Tennessee Williams. I just always have gravitated towards those women. I don't know what that says about me.
You've done so many of them.
As loony as they are. But no, they're all quite extraordinary women. You know, they are with great passion and misguided mostly, but, you know, just a tremendous passion. And it's just so much, such a great journey every night. There's so much to dig deeper. Every night there's something. That we were talking earlier, that, you know, it's almost like, it's like throwing a ball and you're never quite sure where it's going to come when you're playing with actors who are, you know, we've now been playing for a good several weeks, and so we feel very comfortable with one another. And it's just, there's so much to unearth in a really beautifully written play, a very wonderful play. It just seems like there's a never-ending flow of good things to unearth.
And you were saying also before when we were talking about, you really never stop rehearsing.
Yeah.
I mean, opening night,
When it's
that's
a
the
closing
beginning of,
Yeah.
you know, 4 nights ago I turned to Lila Robbins in the play and I said, I think I'm just now figuring out how to play Hussaini, because it's, you know, it's a continuing process, a living, breathing, changing thing.
And the richer the writing, I think, the more there is to keep
But so with
exploring.
both those playwrights, it's so deep. I remember working on Camino Real, Tennessee Williams' Camino Real, and on the wall, in one of the stage directions, there's a line scratched on the wall from Burnt Norton by T.S. Eliot, which I had never read, so I went, you know, to the bookstore in Williamstown and found this, and then started looking at Proof Rock and some of the poems that I did know. And then as we're playing this play, even briefly in Williamstown for 3 weeks, every night other things, echoes of T.S. Eliot came up, and you thought, I never would have put Tennessee Williams and T.S. Eliot together. And you think, I know he was reading T.S. Eliot when he wrote this. And that you don't get in a rehearsal, that you only get in the time of playing a play where there other things come up.
But do you find that there comes a time in the playing of a play, if it's a long run, for example, where there is no more examination to be had, and it becomes rote and or boring to play, or do you find that's...
You know, I haven't done particularly long runs, and sadly, I never work for dead playwrights. I always do.
We'll get to you in a moment.
I'm always doing new plays. I've done a lot of plays by women, by Teresa Rebeck. I've had plays written for me specifically, so it's like, oh dear, I have to dig deeper into myself.
That's right. And am I really like that?
That's right. Jeez. But I did Wendy's The Heidi Chronicles on Broadway for 6 months. I replaced Anne Lang back when I was but a mere babe. And after about 4 months, I felt that my performance had become so rococo. You know, like you did a bit on a schmear on a schneer. And what I did was go back and look at the script and go, oh, it's just that. Just do that.
Yeah.
So sometimes after you've dug yourself into a big muddy hole, you just need to climb out and start over again.
That's so true.
And it was then, but where I was after having played it for 4 months, by going back to the cleanest, simplest choices each night, was already so rich because it was sort of informed by those 4 months of embellishment. But but it was hard. It was hard doing 6 months. You know, you do get.
It's like a runner. You hit a wall, and then you go through to another place.
And then it was great.
And there are certain nights when you just, you think you're feeling so alive and rich, and you had your vitamin B12 shot, and, raring to go, and then all of a sudden, it's like the bottomless pit. Luckily, it doesn't happen very often, but that's when you sometimes least expect it. It may be the audience is just, not giving you anything at all, or another actor's having or just yourself. It's just
you have a nice everything you do feels false. It's like, why am I crossing over there? I've done it now for 6 weeks that way. It's like, that's a stupid thing to do. That's contrived.
Why did I make this choice in the first place? And now I'm stuck with it because it's lit that way. I have to go over there or I'm in the dark.
Right. But it's also what makes it so exciting. Because you're never quite sure what's going to happen, and that's what's...
So you have to stay on your toes all the time, so you have to just be so alert.
Do directors help take out the embellishments as they go along, or do you not want them to come by after you've opened?
I want them to always come by. I want them to give me notes until the closing night.
Oh, you're such a good person.
No,
I would say it depends on the director. Of course, some give brilliant notes. Like Sam Mendes would come back to Cabaret, and he would come in and just take you right back, everybody right back to what they were supposed to be doing. Other directors will come and mess with you, and it's just kind of like a 3-day flu. You have to get their notes out of your system.
Or give you a note on like one particular little way you said something. It's like, dude, I'm not thinking that way. You know, I mean,
come back another night.
Come back another night. It's not going to be that. That's what it was because something else happened. I mean, it's just all, I don't know. I'm afraid of the ocean, but I'm fascinated by surfers. And those movies about the big wave surfers, the people who surf the giants. There's a movie called Riding Giants and another one called Step Into Liquid that you just have to see. And while I was watching it, I thought, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Because we're doing the same thing. Basically, we're just surfing. We're going out and going surfing. But you don't know how the wave is going to be. Right. You don't know how you're going to ride it. It's probably going to be kind of scary. But you can tell they just get... The way the surfers would talk about surfing was the way, you hear people, it's like, if I don't get a job, I'm going to go crazy. When they don't get a break for weeks and weeks and they're not able to surf, they just sort of lose their minds. And then getting out there and surfing, then when they're finished, they're like, I feel good now.
I always think of it like
really
skiing. I'm not a skier, but skiing down a really steep, slippery, dangerous slope with no poles and lots of obstacles, and you're just constantly, whoa, watch out! Whoa, that was a close one. And you're going, or just like I always feel in previews and opening night, especially like I'm on the top of a huge cliff and I'm about to dive into this dark water, and I have no guides, and I just take a deep breath and go. And it's sort of a great high if it goes well.
But it is. It's something that you have to be totally in the moment. So somebody giving you a note about a line reading, to me, is just so crazy because you're making the decision in the moment. I mean, we've all done this for a long enough time. I mean, we have the technique that pulls you through, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da, and how you listen and, you know, I mean, we know how to do a show, but how it goes down that particular night is always going to have this level of, like you're saying, you know, you're just feeling it out and making your way around that thing, and
I still love getting notes. I mean, as you say, from a wonderful director, of course, goes without saying. But because that to me is the part of it that I lust after, is examining every little moment and sort of figuring it out and kind of talking about it. And if we do it this way, it gets one reaction. If we don't, if I turn it before the line, it gets another. I don't know. To me, that's endlessly fascinating.
Now, don't you find you can also just do that in the plane of it, that the things will arise that you that surprise you and take you and help you find new moments that don't necessarily.
But I guess I just love talking about it and examining it. And
oh man!
Yeah, I like talking about it.
I wanted to ask Julie.
That's so interesting.
I wanted to ask Julie, who's playing a rather fierce woman who addresses the audience.
Yes.
And does that help the surfer, or is that giving you a bigger surfboard or a smaller surfboard?
Well, you know, I mean, it's kind of, they're the wave. They're sort of the wave. I mean, do I have like 3 to 4 foot or 6 to 10 foot swells, or do I have like a great tsunami of fabulousness coming at me?
Yeah. Because I mentioned that I'd seen the show off Broadway, and the audience took a while to get her.
Yeah.
And when I saw it the other night, they were with her from the get-go. It's the first line, and I thought, is it the expectation they've now heard that they should be, or? I mean, and it was an amazing ride. You just rode them all night long.
Oh, it's really fun. Because also I'm really kind of despicable, and the things I'm trying to get them to agree with me about, like I put them in collusion with me, really to sort of some heinous things.
My client, a rising young movie star who suffers from a slight recurring case of homosexuality, has informed me that as his date, are you possibly seated for this? Yes. As his date to this evening's ceremony, he would like to bring his mother, so that no one will know that he is gay.
The whole audience laughs and like, so if you take your mother as a date to an award ceremony, you're gay? That's just a terrible thing to get them to agree to, but they just agree.
It's the power, that you have.
Of, you know, evil, a great dress, and, you know.
No, but it's a great character you've created, who we so believe in and so love and adore.
No, you just kind of believe her.
That you want to take the ride with her.
Yeah.
Were you involved in the Little Dog Laugh from the very beginning?
Yeah, I kind of was. It was originally part of the Tribeca Theater Festival. There was just one scene in it that Doug had pulled out and made his contribution to this evening of short plays that all had something to do with Tribeca. And I also did a piece by Robbie Bates and a piece by Wendy Wasserstein. And I think Robbie wanted me in his piece, and Wendy wanted me in her piece, and Doug was like, oh, no. Not Julie White. No, I want someone more hard-edged and tough. I don't want like the nice Southern lady. And but somehow, you know, he got stuck with me, and you know, it worked out. It worked out.
So you were in essence a collaborator on this piece from the beginning, and so and I wanted to ask the panel too, if you've had an opportunity to be part of the creation of a play where a role is in essence created, if not for you, around you, with you, and does the playwright welcome the dialogue, or is it, no honey, this is the way you say the lines and be done with it?
Gosh. Well, I wouldn't work for them twice. But like I say, no dead playwrights for me. I have done so much of that. That's kind of my whole career.
And they listen to you.
As being the person on the you know, on the title page of the published script, which is so fun. But but I sure wish I'd done some Williams.
You will.
Not today.
Okay, okay.
Ladies are go on and on.
All right.
Dominable.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Any other experiences of plays that were written that you were the people who created the role and worked as...
Well, speaking of Wendy, Uncommon Women and others, we did initially up at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Playwrights Conference in Connecticut. And there's definitely a few moments in this play, forgive me, Wendy, but there are a few moments I think that I had some sort of contribution to, because Wendy believed in my taste and trusted my sense of whatever, my ear. And, you know, we did that play in like 3 different incarnations and finally did it for television. So, yeah, definitely there were moments of that, of a co-creation.
Sure.
And I've done, like you, mostly new plays my whole career. So there've been a lot of that I've experienced, and I love it. I love being in it.
I do too, and I've got a real ear now for what doesn't need to be in the play.
Exactly.
That's a big skill of mine. It's like, you know, this is a great line, but let's not be married to it.
Right.
We don't really need it.
Right.
And
then
keep the story forward.
then the really good stuff becomes great because you don't have all that
you don't have too much
stuff in between that's sort of okay.
And
but
that would be the hardest thing as a writer, to edit, man, to kill any of your
Kill
babies.
your babies. I know. Yeah, you have to.
But even with Shaw, sorry, George,
You took a scissors, yeah.
Did you really?
Production?
cut the whole burglar scene, lifted it right out.
That's right.
We'd still be there if, you know, that George could talk. He could talk and write. But yeah, I mean, definitely, that was one thing that sold me on doing it. Was Robin, the director, said, "Cut. We're going to cut because it's so long." And what was interesting is I found out that Shaw directed the first production of this. And so when
That's
I
a
heard
bad
that,
plan.
it all fell into place. I went,
A bad plan.
who am I? But all due respect. But he didn't have an editor. He didn't have a shaper saying, George, you know what? We could go right from here to here and it'd be even better. And lift this out and put that line somewhere else.
Yeah, with new plays, you
need that
definitely, it's not
information.
great when playwrights direct their own plays.
yeah.
'Cause they're missing a whole voice there.
it's just
And you
so
as an actor
hard.
have that
The
problem of not
editor
having that
and-
other channel
Right.
to talk about the play.
So,
And was the Clean House, it was a new play to New York, right?
It was a
But
new
it's
play to
been
New York,
done-
and it had been done 6 or 7 times around the country. And it had been done in England as well. So no, it was pretty well. Although Sarah was with us for all the rehearsals and would tinker and tune in that way.
One of the things I found fascinating about it is you and Jill Clayburgh, who play sisters, and they're very different characters. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to switch?
We talked about that. We thought, well, in the second year when we're running this, we'll do a sort of Othello and Iago. We'll switch night after night. Yeah, we thought that would be fun. Because one thing I like is I had seen a couple of productions of this play before. Because after we'd given it the prize, we thought, did we make a mistake? So I drove to Philadelphia and New Haven to see the play, never thinking I would do it. But it was. One thing that was interesting was to cast the sisters so that you would think that there was a moment when they were the same person. They could have been the same person. It's more interesting, I think, if you do that rather than have one kind of earthier and one more sort of uptight.
I will not let you clean my house just because the maid is depressed.
She's not depressed. She doesn't like to clean. It makes her sad.
Is that true?
Yes.
So, then why?
I don't know.
You looked through my things.
Not really.
I find this incomprehensible.
Can't I do a nice thing for you without having a motive?
No, you have better things to do than clean my house.
Like what?
Well,
like what?
I don't know.
No, you don't know.
Oh, it's nice to work with a peer, a female peer. That rarely happens.
know.
It's like you can be, now one is the older woman and they're younger women, but you rarely get to work with someone who's your own kind of time and kind, and it's really fun. It's really fun because you've got so much experience and you can just trust each other and just knock things around
It's
in a way
great.
that's
That's
much
so
more
rare.
fun.
I
It's
mean,
so
gosh,
rare.
it is.
Cherry and I
so
had
rare.
it in
It's
Imaginary
rare.
Friends, but how often do you get that? You know, two
No, and-
wonderful leading lady roles in one piece. It's
Well,
heaven.
We only had it on television.
I was going to say, I was going to
Yeah,
bring that up.
exactly.
No, darling, you were the leading.
No, well, those scenes, believe me, those were...
Let's talk about that. This you're talking about Huff, I believe, the well-loved, if
Yeah.
too short-lived television show. But did you get to work? You were both on it. Did
Well,
you get to
yeah,
work together?
and the thing is, here we are in this business. I mean, I know I'm older than probably everybody here, but the fact is, we're maybe close. It's so great to be able to you're always saying either auditions or passing to the theater.
That's
hello,
it. That's
hello.
you see each other's
But you
auditions.
never get to really know anybody. I mean, I don't. It's been such a gift to know.
We would get to be
because we
together
had
at
some great
4
scenes
a.m.
together. Yeah,
we were
when
still
really
bonding.
No, but
when you
this
really
was
know
the
what somebody's
brilliance.
like.
Huff, my God.
No, but it
Your-
was. We
your
had some.
creation
We
of
had
Izzy.
some good scenes, really good scenes
So
together.
brilliant. Yeah,
We,
did
bo-
it.
we
have a
both
little-
had
we-
some juicy
We
good
did.
stuff.
We kept
to do.
asking for more stuff to do together.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
Well, in that way, television is kinder in terms
Yeah,
of offering women a lot more interesting roles.
Yeah,
I think.
television
Television is a great
for
source
women.
for a
And
lot
now
of
with
that.
cable too, it's such a gift because you know there and you know how many things are written for people our age.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, on that note, let's take a pause and hear a little bit more about the work of the American Theater Wing.
The American Theater Wing has played a vital role in New York's theatrical life for more than 60 years. We stand for excellence and we support education in the theater.
Best known for creating the Tony Award, our work reaches beyond Broadway and New York.
These seminar programs, which are supported by the Annenberg Foundation and the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, are an unequal forum for discussions with today's most creative artists.
Downstage Center's in-depth interviews are heard on XM satellite radio. Our grant and scholarship programs support New York theater companies and theater students. And since we began, we have given away more than $2.5 million.
Our theater intern group helps young people who are just starting in their careers build a professional network.
And Springboard NYC is a 2-week boot camp for aspiring actors from colleges across the country.
All of the American Theater Wing's educational and media programs are available for free, on demand, from our website, americantheaterwing.org.
Now, let's return to the seminar.
That was a scene from a revival of Follies with Blythe Danner, which was, if I'm correct, your first Broadway musical?
I had done a Broadway musical that never got to Broadway called Mad Harry when I was a kid. It closed it closed out of town, and haven't done. Well, did stuff to my voice and couldn't sing for a long time. Still really can't, but I just got up there and said, "I'm doing it."
Yeah.
And it was so much fun being carried around by the guys. And, you know, so just I never had such a good time. It'd be fabulous.
The sort of regal leading lady letting her hair down.
Yeah, it was really fun.
And others have done musicals. Now, Swoosie, you were working with Michael Bennett, were you not, on a musical that never made it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's slightly like yours, but not quite as far along.
What was
as mine.
that?
It was called Scandal, and that's when we did that TV movie together. I was working on Scandal with Michael Bennett for a year, and I was the leading lady, and I was singing and dancing and being carried about by the... It was just thrilling beyond belief. We did 4 workshops, not the kind that people come to, but just, in-house workshops. And it was just, working with this genius every day. It was an experience that I wouldn't have traded for the world. It was heartbreaking when he became ill, and but wasn't telling anybody, so we didn't know the reason, and he shut it down, and that was that. But we found out later why. But it was just an amazing experience.
But
Something
was
about...
I'm just going to say, was there enough of a show there that could ever be resurrected, or was it still in an early stage?
Oh no, it was a pretty much almost there. There were a couple songs left to be written. Treva Silverman wrote the script, and Jimmy Webb was writing the music. And we had the best dancers in New York, and it was pretty amazing. But I don't know if it could ever be. I don't know.
I know we were just talking about that before we started again, that they both have worked in musicals too, and there's something liberating, isn't there?
Thrilling.
Singing, opening that voice, especially as actors, and having done things where you have to be so precise, and there's just something so liberating.
So the overture, every performance, you come in, you're wet, it's February, or it's beautiful summer night, and you're going to the theater, and then you hear the music, and it's like it's all gone. It's just all gone. You're just there.
The physicality of dancing too.
Yeah.
Just that's so alien to us mostly. What we do most of the time, which is acting, it's just it's another animal, and it's just. I envy people who do it a lot because it's so.
Yeah, because as actors, we're so. I mean, all that emotion gets so bottled up. We're so working with our emotions all the time, which can be very stressful, you know. And it's so sort of not that it's not disciplined to sing and dance, but I mean, you work off that stress a little more than.
Well, also talking about running shows, we were just saying, the thing about when you're in a musical, it goes, it runs. You fly with it, and it keeps you fresh in ways that when I was doing Cabaret, there's a great book there, right? Because it's from a play.
Sure.
But that part could kind of get bent out of shape after a while. And so Sam Mendes would come in and remind us, this is what you're doing, this is what you want, this is what this is about. But of course the rest kind of went on its path. So that was an interesting kind of combination of that.
Because the musical rhythm is such a discipline. And
Yeah,
in a
you're
play,
there.
you can, the timing is always different.
Mutable, negotiable.
Yes, I
That's
remember
right.
in Frozen, we would always check how long the first act was. By seconds, we would time ourselves. Oh, a little slow tonight, we've got to pick up the pace. Stay ahead of them. Whereas in a musical, there's no choice. The conductor is
taking them along.
Right.
It's right along with you. Yeah, it's wonderful.
So you have all done musicals, you have done straight plays, you have done television, and you have done movies. Which of those would you say is your favorite? Or do you like being able to do all four and hop back and forth?
I do now. When I was younger, I hated film. I found it so intimidating. I just didn't want it to be there at all. Oh, it was awful. But now that I'm old, I like it. I like it all. Bring it on. Bring it on. Exactly.
It's funny bringing it up, listening to you guys talk about musicals, because I had that. Do you have to take a nap before your show? Okay, nap dreams are the worst. Like you wake up and they're really vivid and they've just been horrible the last few days. And the last one I had was something about this musical, and I had to start the show and sing this note, and I couldn't hit it, and I was like. What do you want it to, how is it supposed to visit my head? That head, voice, chest, all that stuff about singing. And I realize I have a lot of anxiety about singing. And I think that also my character is just so, she brays, she's so loud, she's really sort of the voice, and my voice is tired a lot of the time. And I guess maybe that's what the worry is, but I think that's the part about the musical that would freak me out.
Oh, yes.
Is the actual producing a lovely and pleasing noise.
But in Follies, there was a note I never could hit, and at first I was so upset about it, and then I just hell with it. Just gonna go out there, and if it comes out, it doesn't. But I love doing everything else so much that I just sort of didn't care.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the business of the theater. I mean, there is a story going around that in order to get the Little Dog Laugh a theater, you had to have audience with Gerald Schoenfeld. Is this an apocryphal story, or is this true?
I did. But I figured I had to do it because it would turn into such a great, sort of seemingly apocryphal story. All I did was, Jerry just didn't know our show. He hadn't seen it. He had no face to put with it. It wasn't British. It sounded like it was just about gay people. And they couldn't get into, see us or something. And I was in town for something. So I was the show had closed, and I was in town for something else. And they just called and said, will you just, for 15 minutes, just go in and talk to this guy and see if, maybe that will... I don't know. So I just put on my best Austin, Texas girl and went in there and just visited with him and kind of told him what the show was about in sort of a quick and slightly huckster-ish way. And he was like, okay, we'll give you the court. It was like,
cool.
You must have been good.
Yeah, truly.
No, didn't you have to do any of the play? You just
No, I just kind of described it, and I told him that it wasn't like at the end I stuff all the gay people back in the closet and marry them off, and you'll love it,
So
Jerry.
a happy ending.
Yeah, happy ending. And,
That's great.
And it just did happen to. I mean, he says that he had already decided. And
But it started life at the second stage, which is an institutional theater, and,
Yeah.
and if you take that part of Little Dog Left, the shows that you are all in are at institutional theaters in New York.
Wow, that's true.
Do you think that's?
Yes.
I don't want to say where the good work happens, but do you think it's somehow liberating to be able to do a wider range of work at the institutional theaters?
Thank God. for
Yeah.
nonprofit
Yeah.
theater.
there's no
That's all I
such
can
thing
say.
as a. I mean, we're.
Broadway's about real estate.
And you
it's
know
about
how
real
long
estate
you're going to
prices. It's
run,
like a-
you know,
yeah.
even if you get bad
That's
reviews
right.
or
You still
whatever,
have-
you've got that chunk of time. And
Where else would you see Tennessee Williams or Shaw? I mean, on Broadway in a first-class production.
especially suddenly last summer, which is a more obscure and very
Exactly.
strange play. You know, it's
Right.
not the Streetcar or Glass Menagerie. It's a much. Todd Haynes happens to love the play, and he's been wanting to revive it.
People didn't refer to us as Sebastian and his mother, or Mrs. Venable and her son. They said, Sebastian and Violet. Violet and Sebastian are staying at the Lido. They're at the Ritz in Madrid. Sebastian and Violet. Violet and Sebastian have taken a house in Biarritz for the season. Every appearance, every time we appeared, attention was centered on us. Everyone else eclipsed. Vanity? Oh, no, Doctor. You can't call it that.
Well, I didn't call it that.
It wasn't folie de grandeur, it was grandeur.
I see.
An attitude toward life that's hardly been seen in the world since the great Renaissance princes were crowded out of their palaces and gardens by successful shopkeepers.
Do you find that the not-for-profit theaters invite you to productions? Do they ask you what shows you'd like to do, or heaven forfend, do they ask you to audition? I mean, if Todd wants to do...
I don't mind auditioning, but I haven't had too much lately. But no, I actually had lunch with Todd, and he said, funny that what we're thinking of doing something last summer, would you be... I said, yeah. You know, that's sort of how that happened.
I never get the lunch.
But you get the call, and that's all
I mean,
that matters,
he
really.
has
You
to
get
ask
the
me
call.
to do things, but
Yeah.
I've never gotten any food with it. So it's very much.
The times I know I've had to audition in the last few years have been for British directors who simply just don't know a lot of you, and I would rather audition for them than have a meeting. Because I just think meetings are so strange. I'm not one of those people that says, "Oh, I don't read." It's like, no, I would rather read. Let's just get on with it and see how.
And if
we
you're nothing like the
work
character,
together.
how do you?
Well, precisely. That's the other thing. You think. I remember years ago, there was a movie that I was up for, and they said, "Oh, the director just wants to meet." So I met with this Irish guy, and he was coming to New York. So I was telling him where to live and what restaurants to go to, and I got this call back, and they said, "Well, they're not quite right." And I said, "Why?" They said, "Well, he just thought you were too nice." And I thought, "Okay, well, I could have been different, and now I will be when I see this guy. I'll be very different. I'll be much less nice when I see him the second time." But you just sort of thought, and that was the end. I thought, from now on, I read. I would just rather, if a director doesn't know you.
I don't mind auditioning at all.
I auditioned for Festin for that play. I didn't get it.
Just as well. I liked that play. I
liked it when I read it.
I'd love to
I
read it.
liked it in New York.
I didn't see
I
it.
I get so annoyed with critics. Because they often will deny the public a really wonderful production, and it's just one opinion, and it makes me livid.
Part of what you mentioned in passing there were British directors, and I think you had said earlier that the late Jerry Gutierrez used to say that the Tony Awards, everyone was the British whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
But auditioning is auditioning for them a different process? Is their process a lot different than Americans, or is it a case-by-case basis?
It is. I mean, it is. But I was trained in an English manner. I went to Michel Saint-Denis set a school up in Montreal that was bilingual. That was before he set up Juilliard. So it was that English training. So that's the way I knew how to work from the outside in. And my first job was at Stratford, Ontario, and I had sort of done that and went to the Shaw Festival. And so that's what I was used to. So in a weird way, generally, I prefer English directors because I find they're more pragmatic. there's less kind of mystery and like process. It's just kind of like we're building something together. We're building a house or making a pair of shoes, and it's about craft. And I've learned more from them about like bad habits. They'll say, you know what you tend to do? You tend to, you know, kind of let us know before you make a noise that lets us know before you say what you're saying. And it was like, oh, it's like act on the line. Now, I remember that from when I was very young, like doing. And I've found now because I direct as well, I find there's a real, I think American acting is sort of in trouble a little bit. One, because there is so much television and film, and that so many actors just know how to do naturalistic acting and don't know how to take it to the next place and aren't even interested and think it's the same, which isn't helped by the fact that Julia Roberts comes on Broadway and they find, oh, it doesn't work. You think, no, it works one way or the other.
It worked financially.
But it worked financially. But that it's very, I think it's very hard for American actors to look at the structure of a scene, the structure of a play, to know that like it's an orchestral piece and what note do we play. It's all like, well, my character wouldn't do this, and I don't know. And it's like, I find that rubbish. I just really do. It's like, your character is made up. You're making it up, the playwright making it up. It's all, your character can actually do anything.
And it's not really all that important for them to know what you are feeling at every second.
No,
David Mamet wrote this great thing. It was applying to playwriting, but it certainly applies to acting as well. There's one thing the audience wants to know. What happens next?
Yeah, exactly.
Get on with it.
Tell the story. Tell the story.
That's what did Ellen Burstyn say? I kept missing it. People keep saying, well, I don't know. There was something in the news about Ellen Burstyn saying that the American acting was in trouble, and I just wondered
curious.
But I didn't hear the specifics.
I don't know what that was.
Of that.
Because I think one of the things I know from British directors, and I don't know if you've had this experience as well, they're very thrilled to work with American actors because we have so much available, you know, and we're not kind of hidebound in that regard. So I think that's interesting that we can bring much more passion often to classical material and English material than they're used to having more genuine passion, not passion. And that's a kind of thrilling combination.
Yeah, I studied in London, also Lambda.
Exactly.
But Brian Cox, who was there when I was there, came to Heartbreak House, and he and several other English people have been to Heartbreak House, and they've said the same thing, which is very generous of them. They've said, we love this cast is all American, and you guys get everything, but you also get the heart and the sexuality, which they themselves said we don't think we get as well. So that was nice to hear.
Look at Coast of Utopia, that Stopper play that's now upstairs at Lincoln Center. I mean, I never saw the one in England, but everyone I know said, yeah, it was good. It was hard. And now and this is like, I mean, I've just seen the first one. The first act is like, you think this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Your heart's just pounding out of your chest because there are all those actors that are just telling stories.
What can be done to encourage future generations of really good American actors?
Bring back more repertory companies.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's exactly
as a kid, I went from Theatre Company Boston to Trinity Square Playhouse to I can't remember where, and we had a chance. We did.
That's what I did. I worked for years outside New York in all kinds of repertory before I ever worked in New York.
Yeah,
I played Buffalo.
You learned by
me too.
I
played Winnipeg.
in Louisville and
all the
someplace in
spots.
Pennsylvania and Seattle rep, but those I did that when I was like from 21 to about 26. I just was out of town all the time.
Right.
But now, if you come out of school at 21, you're going to LA, and your
That's
agents
the
are
shame.
putting you
Yeah.
in. You know, you can make a ridiculous amount of money for yourself and for them in
I
television.
didn't even think about film and television. I only thought about the theater. That was where my heart was, and that's what pulled me. And I just wanted to play different people.
But I think now you come out of school now, and it really is a different world.
Also, there weren't stars when I was young. There weren't stars of any sort that were 19 and 20 and 22.
No,
and,
right.
you kind of thought,
you got to
I'll
be a
work
star when you're about
35.
30 or 35.
Yeah, you're 30. That's when kind of you just assumed you would be a star then, when you'd done all that work till then. With that sort of arrogance.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. You did think I would have to work for some time before I merited
earn
this.
it.
Yes,
Right.
it's a gift.
But it is true. The agents can just push these young kids into wanting to be a star in a series.
Well, I mean, back then, you didn't do television.
That's
You really
right.
didn't. I mean, when I was just a few years ago, nobody wanted a pilot or a series. And now, we all want it.
Also, I never heard the phrase when I was younger, my agent said I can't do this, or I shouldn't do this. It was like,
Oh, right, no.
You used to be actually your agent worked for you, since you're paying them 10%, and you kind of figured this out and you would talk about it, but there wasn't a sense of that the agent was your authority figure.
But
It certainly
and
is
now
now.
managers, everybody, these young people, I've never
Yeah.
had a manager. I don't know if you had, but I'm always amazed that they have a manager and an agent and don't make a step until they
consult
Yeah.
the firm.
So is the responsibility on your shoulders as a young actor to figure it out for yourself? What's your career? To be bold enough to say to the agent, no, let me do a little theater and work in the theater to teach.
let me get my craft. Let me get in my bones. What to do, the technique.
Because you can go from the
Training.
theater to film, but to go from the film to the theater isn't necessarily as easy.
Well, what do you bring? I mean, unless you're a very extraordinary performer, you don't have a craft to bring.
The chops.
I guess because I know, a lot of younger people that are kind of trying to navigate that road, and they just like boldly and bravely make time for the theater. Young actress Emily Burgle that I did fiction with at the Laura Pels had, if her agents had her way, she'd just be in TV. She's doing Men in Trees now, but she wanted to do Touch of the Poet so bad. And Todd, let her do it. And she came and did that play on Broadway, and up doing the show with me at the Laura Pels. She just has made theater a priority in her life, And you just have to do it, I think. And not, because it's easy to be lazy. Because doing a play is work, everyday work, not like
6 days
going
a week
to the place where they just have a lot of free purses and you pick them out. That's sort of your LA day-to-day work. And if you have a series or something, and coming here and doing this, Johnny Galecki, who's in our play, is a young actor that could just be sitting on his laurels and being in LA and make plenty of money, but he wants to do this play, and man, he gets there and gets the theater. Geez, he has such dedication. I feel like a slacker next to him. He gets there, an hour and a half before and getting himself
Warms
into
up
the character and, really just with such dedication. So I think there are a lot of younger actors who have that, who really, really want to have the skills and the technique to be able to go on and on and
be an actor your whole life. That's
yeah,
what's
but
the
we do
difference.
see that our weird kind of tabloid. We do see a lot of stuff in the data that comes up in our faces constantly about people who are not that way, and maybe they are the people Ellen is referring to. But there's a lot of real hard-working young actors out there.
Blythe, what you had said earlier that when you were younger and you did movies, you didn't like it. What didn't you like about it?
Well, for me, I have to be very physical. I don't feel comfortable unless I can really use my body, my instrument. And somebody I know was in on it when Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks were having a fight, a good family friend, and having a big argument, and she came over to her. She wasn't going to touch her, but she just don't touch my instrument. He said, "Oh yeah, let me hear you play the Beguine on it." And he said that with You're just fooling around. But so for me to be so contained and to have to hit a spot, I could never hit my marks. Directors would get so angry with me, and I'd get so uptight, and I'd just get tighter and tighter and tighter because I just could, and I just felt it was very tense. So it just took a lot of years to live in the body and learn to be more.
Because I remember when I worked for Alan Arkin, one of the things he liked about making movies as an actor was that you were that you had to conceive the entire role, and then you were doing piece 12, and then piece 47, and then piece 6.
Yeah.
And I remember as he explained it, I thought, this sounds like madness to me.
Yeah.
But he thought, to him as an actor, that was an additional challenge that he liked. But if you're theater trained...
It is madness, yeah, it is. But I go along with Blythe. I'm a big one for body English, and I love the expressing who the person is through the whole body very often. I mean, not every second, but, it's hard not to do that.
Did you also have any influence on your costume in Heartbreak House, which I thought was absolutely outrageous and wonderful?
So wonderful. I actually, Jane Greenwood, who is a genius, had this concept about Hesione, my character, that she would not change for dinner. The other ladies all came with their little suitcases, so of course I lived there. Hesione is very unconventional. she wouldn't care about changing for dinner, and that was fine with me. Jane made me this beautiful costume for the whole show. And then we were 2 weeks into previews, and she came back one night. She said, you know, I just sat out there and watched the whole thing, and I'm bored with that red dress. I'm going to make you a new dress. And she said she called the roundabout, and after they fainted on the floor and picked themselves up, because I guess it costs so much money.
Pleats are expensive.
Oh, my God. She made me this amazing dress, which helped me actually play the character. That's sort of the outside-in thing sometimes that happens. And I realized I could work it, you know, work the body from underneath that dress, and because I'm flirting with all these men and I have them all on the string, and just because Hesione is that way and very sensual, and it really helped me to get there.
Are there any roles that you have played in your past that you think that you left unfulfilled and you'd like to go back and have another shot at them?
Prospera. I did Prospera in The Tempest, and I want another shot at that. It's a great part for a woman. And it's a very different thing when it's a mother who's preparing a daughter to go into the world than a father. And it's very different for a woman to be a torturer than for a man. It was very unsettling for people to see. And this was before Linda English and Abu Ghraib and that sort of thing. So now you'd have to have Caliban or Ariel brought out on a leash to really remind people of how scary. Because when it's a man, you just kind of expect men to be badly behaved, and it's no big deal. But if it's a woman, it's very upsetting.
Wow, if you get to do it again, will you let us know? Because I want to come see it.
See that.
I would love to see that.
But can you, since you're now at Lincoln Center Theater in a play, is that the kind of idea you could trot upstairs and knock on the door?
I don't think they like to do things that are that unconventional, you know? I mean, if it was Vanessa Redgrave, yes, they would probably do it. But, you know, that's kind of daring for them.
Or would you
There's
find
another kind of theater, I think, to do it.
You never know till you ask.
That's true.
Or would you find a director that you might suggest?
Yeah,
it's a collaborative
that's
world.
a good way exactly. There's an American director I know who lives in England named Daniel Kramer, who just did this Wojciech down at St. Anne's Warehouse, who's just a visionary guy, really. But he's American, and he's gone over there because he thought, why would I want to stay in New York where the best job I can get is to be, Dan Sullivan or Joe Mantel's assistant for 5 years, and then, get a reading somewhere? So he took himself off, and he's now an associate director at the RSC. And he's just sort of invented himself, which when we were talking earlier, I thought that's what's changed in the business, is everybody, whether it has to be more entrepreneurial, designers, directors, writers, the boundaries, like that you go in to make that happen, to get that theater. That's what it is. You can't actually rely on producers to do that, and directors can't, playwrights can't. Playwrights have to call and
It's true.
And make things happen. That's what's different. When we kind of came in, it was like there were slots.
Things were decided for you.
But now it seems, I think probably this is what it was more like in the very beginning of theater, when, but by the 20th century when it got established, there was an order. So I think we're kind of going back to something.
When we did Frozen downtown at MCC, and then it just was like, the second coming, and people said we had to move. Well, it was all great to say we had to move, but we didn't have the money. And I mean, this is so, I can't believe I did this. I got on the phone, and I personally raised $250,000.
Right.
I mean, that is so not me. I could never do that for myself, but this play was something bigger than all of us, and it was like...
But what did you say to people?
I called people I didn't even know. Yeah, and you know what? It was fine. I said, it's fine if you say no, because I only need a few people to say yes. And I just thought I'd help a little bit. I'd help with the calls, because we had a week off or something. We literally opened hours before the Tony deadline, and it was like, we have to, if we don't get that theater, if we don't, everything falls into place by this moment, it's not going to happen. I thought, please, more people have to see this play. It's so...
When you were passionate about it, too.
I was passionate about it. It was like doing something for a child or for someone else. It was so beyond, me asking. I would never have that nerve to call someone up and ask for me. But it was amazing. I mean, I got like 50,000 here, 100,000, and suddenly I realized what I had done, and it was like, but that.
Yeah. Then did you feel terribly responsible when you were out there performing, like you had to make those people's money back for them?
Well, she did.
Well, I don't know about the money. We got the prestige, but no, I didn't, because I believed in it so much. I already knew that it worked from downtown, and we just had to find the right theater, and I just wanted it to keep running, like you do your show. It's like, oh, please, hang in there, Right.
So you felt a kind of power you didn't think you had?
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't going after power, but it was. I realized, oh my God, when I believe in something so much, look at how empowered I am. and what I can do. Because if anybody had said, "Do you think you can do that?" I went, "Oh, "No, me. That's no. I don't do that."
You're not
Like you
producer,
said,
right? Yeah.
we're everybody's doing things outside their little niche. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There I was being a producer, sort
Right.
of.
Yeah.
See, I wonder if you ever have felt, I mean, you felt powerful there. Have you felt powerful in other times that you could do something that you cared that much about, or subject to somebody else's power?
Working, not in the theater, working in the environment. That's been.
Yeah, I was
we
going to
don't
say
have
politically,
Yeah.
that's a good power to have.
Yeah.
And to take the sort of the celebrity from the as an actor and apply it to a politically or a world of
A social
politics
issue or
or a
something
social
like that,
issue.
yeah.
Speaking of power, I mean, every time you walk on stage,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the great power.
You have a story
Yeah.
to tell,
You know,
and if it's
on the
you're
good
really
nights.
lucky, it's a story you want to
Yeah.
tell. That's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, and it's so much responsibility on stage. It's really up to you when you walk out there.
As I've grown up, I feel like one of the only powers I have is the power to say no. But when I was a younger girl and growing up in the South and in the Baptist church, you just didn't say no. People said jump, you jumped.
Right.
Higher and highest. And that's been an interesting thing to me, like learning, because there are things that have happened that are in this business that are not pretty. And realizing that if I'm in a bad situation with people behaving badly, I don't have to stay. I have the power to say no, to say, this isn't for me, this is my life. I will pick and choose what I do to put myself in situations that will help me grow and be a better person, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's been kind of the power that I feel I've come into, is just the power not to try and be all things to all people.
To please.
Yeah, you know?
I know.
Just
It's funny that, because we are in a pleasing profession.
Yes.
But I know I feel that way too. I was
Yeah.
raised by a Southern mother, but I think that's a lot of women's journeys, is being able to not please. And it's a
Absolutely.
weird combination, because we are in a, now I know you really love me profession,
Right.
but yet actually it makes you stronger as a
Yeah,
woman
like
in
now
a
if
way.
I
It's
walk
very
into a
interesting.
room and I get a bad vibe, it's like, I don't want to work with you people for 5 years, then I won't.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And
That's great.
Yeah. So
Because we all, I mean, we're very all different ages, but we, I think, all grew up as women wanting to please and being very accommodating.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
You get too accommodating.
Yeah.
And we have to learn to say, no, the power you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have the
Kind of
power
a
to choose here.
personal power.
And say, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, because the great thing about our profession is we get to fold in all of the things that happen to you, all the good and all the bad, and make it useful. Useful to yourself and to other people viewing it. And they don't know what it is. They don't know what's autobiographical about what you do night after night. But that is an incredibly great gift to have. There are not many professions that do that.
You can
know?
use all that life experience and
Right,
suffering,
yeah.
or disappointment, or
And
whatever.
just fold it
Use
in, and
all.
it's useful to somebody else to watch you be funny, to watch you be tragic, to watch, to watch you be passionate, to watch a woman with a stroke. You don't know what you're doing to people's lives, and that's a great, like, hidden power, whatever it is. But it's good that you can do it. Yeah.
I think that's a great note on which to end. I would like to thank you, ladies,
Thank
for
you.
an enlightening,
you
wonderful
so much.
conversation. Thank you for joining us. These programs are brought to you from the Graduate Center of the City University of New York with our partners CUNY TV. And on behalf of the American Theater Wing, thank you for joining us for another edition of Working in the Theater.